I use Facebook just for business. I don't put anything personal on Facebook. I have a personal account and a Nooganomics related account. And also, our radio station uses Facebook at Nooga Radio. And the reason we use that is it's a means of outreach. It's a means of connecting with people who are possibly like-minded, who might find us useful. And with the boosting function, you can pay $1 to $100 or however much you want on a particular item and turn it into an ad that other people will see. So it's a way of paying to have viewers for your propaganda or your argument or the thing you're showing or the photograph that you think is most worthy or the meme that you want to put there. A lot of people have their own lives strung out on daily posts, sometimes posting several times a day about what they're doing, what they're eating, and of course we've all seen those kinds of posts, and we sort of laugh at them and good-humoredly understand why that's done, and we learn about our acquaintances and our friends, and see fleeting images as we scroll them on up the screen, and look for the next thing, the next headline, the next bit of eye candy, perhaps, or compelling headline that makes us go on down further as we push the scroll function. Well, Christina Tracy is in Flintstone, Georgia. Her husband John is in the internet security field, and she's a homeschool mom with 4 children in the home, including a recently adopted child, very young child. And this morning she posted that she's leaving Facebook for a while. And since I know Christina, she's very helpful with me in my labors as a homeschool editor. I said, well, Christina, could you tell my listener what has gone on in the Tracy household to make you take this step, which is are you retreating from something, or are you advancing on something? Which is it, Christina? Are you advancing or are you retreating in getting off of Facebook for a time at least?
Sure. Well, I wanted to start by saying that there are many things that I love about Facebook. As a person who stays home to care for and educate my children, I don't have as many opportunities as many other people do to actually interact in person. So it's really wonderful to be able to stay on top of what's going on in the lives of my friends and family and other people in my community. And, life is so busy anyway, it's hard to find time to visit with everybody that we would like to. So social media can provide a way to just briefly interact with a lot of different people rather than with just the small number that we actually encounter in our everyday lives. But what I've found is that I have not been able to discipline myself to just spend a few days per week or a few days per month on Facebook. I feel like, as Karl Marx said, it's become the opium of the people, the opiate of the masses, some people say. And it prevents me from living in the moment of what's going on, where I am with my kids or my friends or my family. And it distracts me from being able to put energy and time into confronting the bigger problems that I see in the world and in my community, and being able to make a difference in a larger context. So I think that's just where I've come to is I do love Facebook, but I just think that with my limited time and energy, I would like to be doing more things with in-person interactions and discussions.
So comments online on Facebook, or pushing an icon like a like button or a frown button or a thumbs up button, these are not as valuable as the other options.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's so many issues of faith and social justice and politics that I just think are really important to every single person in the world. And, people on Facebook, I think, tend to shy away from discussing those things because they don't want to say something that's going to be offensive, or they don't want to get a response that might, make them feel bad for the way that they feel or think, or maybe they just don't really have time to do more than press the like button. They're just kind of scrolling through real quick to see what's going on in people's lives. And so I feel like if I, just kind of keep up with Facebook and just those casual interactions, that by the time my children are grown and gone from the home and I have more time on my hands, a lot of important opportunities for actually, being a part of growing and benefiting the community and by extension the world will be gone. And I think there's a lot of things going on in our world right now that will affect my children and even my grandchildren. And if I am sitting back right now and just kind of clicking the buttons and enjoying the posts that friends make, or even the funny cat videos and, the silly news stories that people put up, that I'm just missing an important opportunity to improve the world for my children later on.
And it seems like one of the appeals of Facebook, Christina Tracy, is the volume of things that can come your way. You can keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and not even get to what you saw yesterday. I mean, in one day's time, if you have enough friends and enough connections, you can never get to the bottom of the feed to see what you saw the day before. And so there's a huge volume. And I think one temptation may be that you might become a kind of a voyeur. You're seeing things remotely, and you can see even stories of Biba, the woman who's going to be martyred. I've seen that several times from the ACLJ. Come as a sponsored post showing her beautiful face, and she's facing martyrdom. And I've seen it before. I just passed right over it, and somehow the great and the small, the ridiculous and the profound are all made equally valuable. And I become a passive voyeur. I'm watching things happen, struggles and defeats and weird things, and they're all somehow made equal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just kind of a natural human response, is that we may even feel so helpless to do anything about those bigger issues that it really just makes us feel sad or depressed. And so instead we opt for the funny, upbeat posts. And that is good. I think that it's wonderful to have those opportunities just to give yourself a little boost, especially if you're feeling a little down that particular day. But it does completely distracts our attention from even attempting or trying to facilitate some kind of a larger response in the world that won't be easy. But if we work as a community and as a society towards addressing those bigger issues, then maybe we could make a difference. But we won't know until we try, and it's very difficult to set off on that path. It's much easier to watch the funny cat videos than it is to actually address some of those issues, as I've found myself.
This is David Tulis, and we're talking with Christina Tracy, who is the mother of 4. She lives in Flintstone, Georgia. Her husband is involved in internet security. And this morning she put a post, or maybe it was yesterday, she put a post out saying that she's bailing out of Facebook for a time. What about the whole question of human authenticity, Christina? Are you more authentic when you have had this sort of digital intercourse with hundreds of people potentially? Are you more authentic that way, or are you more authentic if you shun those as you're planning to do and saying I've got personal connections I need to work on? Where is human authenticity affirmed better in what you're proposing to do or what you have been doing on Facebook?
I think that certain people struggle with authenticity no matter what sphere we're talking about, either social media or in person. They just are always putting forward a face that isn't necessarily what they're truly feeling inside. And so we can have that happen in either way. But what I think that Facebook does for us is it only puts forward our best. And so in order to not seem like we're complaining, sometimes we don't put forward the struggles that we're having. And then when our friends are viewing our news feed, they just see that our life is really grand, and they don't see the struggles that we're having. So on the one hand, they feel like, their lives aren't as full as ours because they struggle. But also we're not able to encourage and support each other through our struggle. So if we are meeting in person, we might be more apt to say, yeah, really, I had kind of a rough day, or somebody might notice in our facial expressions that we're not as, cheerful as we might usually be, and maybe come to the root of why that is. So I think that, social media definitely is easier to express the positive while the other things are going unnoticed by others around us.
So you're suggesting that there's the prospect of alienation if you have too much time on social media, where you're not actually touching anybody. It's all through this form, all through this screen of presentation, which again is your the projection of other people on this platform, you're projecting on this platform. And so you're somehow failing to connect with people, even though you're seeing their children, you're seeing them eating hot dogs, you're seeing the woman's latest dinner offering, or her scenes from the beach with her children on vacation and the dog bounding past. You see all those things, and yet you're not really connecting with that person.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a struggle.
Is Facebook addictive, Christina Tracy?
Oh, I really think it is. And I can just point that out from my own life and just from especially teenagers that I interact with. They can't seem to keep their eyes off of their phone throughout the day. But I think there have been studies that have come out recently that have shown that, when people like our posts or make comments on our posts, or when we're out seeing, other people's posts and interacting with them that way, it actually gives us a little bit of a endorphin boost. And so there actually is a chemical component to that. And I definitely feel it myself. And I definitely, I just think that whenever people are affirming us and our, great posts that we're making, that affirmation is addictive. And it may not be honest. We may be feeling really crummy inside and having other struggles that are not getting addressed. But we definitely seek out those encouragements and those affirmations.
I'm reading a review of a book called Irresistible, The Rise of Addictive Technology and the Business of Keeping Us Hooked by Adam Alter. It's from Penguin Press. And the review points out that in our age today, Christina Tracy, we have a lot of dehumanization already in culture, and that is brought about by the institutionalization of culture. Families been diminished, individuals are diminished, and social media disconnects people, like public school disconnects everything from everything else. And the modern state, of course, creates dependency and creates a kind of sea of envy in which more and more people are wallowing. And the reviewer says, whether in work or society, the centralizing state has emasculated or eliminated all the mediating institutions. And these, of course, are family and community, guild and church. And then he points out that these once protected the individual. And then people, because of these other things, already are feeling rootless and kind of atomized and powerless and depressed. And so the question that you're raising by leaving Facebook, Christina Tracy, suggests that too, that Facebook can be contributing to what we already have culturally from these other, the change in culture away from family toward institution and toward the state.
Yeah, definitely. I did a master's degree in information services several years ago, and so it was talking about technology with the emphasis on libraries and library services, and that was definitely something, even 10 years ago, that was becoming an issue, and it's only gotten worse. We talked a lot in our classes about how technology has the ability to connect people and to actually bring about change for the greater good, but instead we end up getting distracted with some of the less important things, and so we're not making the best use of it that we could, I believe.
Yeah, our attention span is short. Of this author, according to the reviewer, says that a goldfish attention span is 9 seconds, and the human attention span has shrunk to 8 seconds. So.
Oh boy,
we're not able to follow things very closely. Read Dostoevsky novels and have prolonged conversations about things anymore.
Exactly, and I think this all came about for me personally, just because I see these things in myself, and I also have children who are approaching the teenage years, and I want to be a good example to them because if teenagers in particular are susceptible to the need to have affirmation and the need to present themselves a certain way. And I just want to raise them in a way that helps them to make the best use of technology while not making it a distraction in their lives. And so that as they become adults, they can use all these wonderful tools that are being developed, while also having a very full relationship with the Lord and also relationships with people around them.
Well, Christina Tracy, thank you so much for joining me here at Nooga Radio. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Christina Tracy is a mom in Flintstone, and she has 4 children, very young. And yesterday got off of Facebook. She quit Facebook and is going to try to have human relationships in person or by phone or by other means, maybe by letter. Have you written a letter to anyone lately and put it in the mail? There are things that are perhaps more striking than ever in the older forms. This is David Tulis, who reads books. I don't care for digital books or Kindles or anything like that. I like the book in my hand. I also like the hard printed newspaper. The story that is of special note today is the mass searching of students in Worth County, Georgia. That's south. It's in southern Georgia, the middle of southern Georgia. On April 14, there was a 4-hour lockdown. There were 40 police officers and sheriff's deputies who, from 5 agencies, seized phones in a search for drugs. It was a drug search. There were 13 young men that Sheriff Jeff Hoppe had targeted, and yet there was a mass search of 900 students. What is striking to me about this story is that apparently there's not a single report of any student having gotten into trouble for saying no. Why do people not say no? Well, we're trained to be compliant. Public school trains people to not know things, right? You're trained by the disconnection of everything from everything else in public school, that there is no such thing as a constitutional right. No one is ever taught that they have a right to be free from search and seizure absent probable cause. And that applies to the individual, right? There has to be an individualized reason for any officer to pat down any person or to search any person in that way. There's not a general threat. There was not a circumstance of a mass shooting. Deputies inserted their fingers inside girls' bras and pulled up girls' bras, touching and partially exposing bare breasts. They touched girls' underwear by placing hands inside the waistband of pants and reaching up to their dresses. They touched girls' vaginal areas through their underwear. They cupped or groped boys' genitals and touched their buttocks through their pants. They had no warrant for this search. It was intrusive. It was performed in an aggressive manner, and it was done in front of full view of everybody else in that school. All the students were lined up on a wall as if they had been detained after an armed intrusion of a village in Afghanistan. They were lined up against the wall, legs spread, the girls groped, and their privates molested. A mass sexual offense in a county by law officers, male and female alike, and not one student objected. Not one student got into trouble. Why were no students willing to get into trouble to say no and to demand the removal of these officers from that school, with everyone being searched as if everyone was guilty, and for which there had been established a personal and individual probable cause. Probable cause has to be particular. There has to be, like election, right? God's election is particular. He has a particular salvation. In the same way, the officer has to have a particular probable cause to search you and your car. It is unlawful to have a search like this, and it is a remarkable story. The lawsuit filed runs 38 pages in federal court and says that the officers acted with malice, carelessness. They were willfully deliberate in what they did. They were malicious and were plainly unreasonable and exercised callous indifference to the male and female students in this school on April 17, when there was a mass search of 900 students without probable cause, reasonable suspicion, or legal authority. They detained these plaintiffs, and other Worth County high school students are seeking class action status, impeded their liberty by requiring them to remain in particular locations in the school for 4 hours, and subjected them to intrusive hands-on physical searches of their bodies. The seizure and search was not justified at its inception, and these defendants had no reason to believe that the students had engaged in any unlawful activity. There were no reasonable grounds for suspecting that searches of the plaintiffs would turn up any evidence. And in fact, guess what? Not a single bit of contraband was found. Not a single marijuana cigarette. Not a single item. Not a single illicit narcotic. 900 students were detained, bodily searched, groped the females' private parts, groped the males' testicles and penises, groped by deputies who wore gloves but didn't change gloves from body to body. 900 students. Where does this come from? And why is it that not a single student said no? Not a single student was willing to get in trouble and stand his ground. Not one. We are in a deplorable state. This is David Tulis.